Hello friends, welcome back to JK Shah classes. Today we will be revising this chapter called Tax Audit and Ethical Compliances. In this chapter, we will primarily be understanding what exactly happens in case of tax audit report under section 44AB of the Income Tax Act. 44AB section we already discussed in this chapter called Business Profession, PGBP chapter. Here we will be discussing the form numbers applicable for tax audit report, the due date, the penalty provisions, and whether CA can qualify the report or not. What are the things which a chartered accountant is supposed to take into account while doing audit? So tax audit concept was not there earlier. Statutory audit, internal audit might have been there, but tax audit was introduced in 1984 with effect from 1st April 1985. You don't need to remember this. Chartered accountant plays a very important role in society. CA reports are required for various purposes under Income Tax Act. Of course, under other acts also, but under Income Tax Act, tax audit is applicable. Then tax audit report has to be either in form number 3CA plus form 3CD or in form 3CB plus 3CD. So, as per section 44AB of the Income Tax Act, read with rule 6G of the Income Tax Rule, in case if books of accounts are already audited under other law like LLP, GST, etc., then assessee required to furnish by obtaining from chartered accountant form number 3CA plus form 3CD. Form 3CD is always required whether audit is done other acts or not. If already done other acts, then form 3CA plus form 3CD. Form 3CD will contain some particulars which are required as per 44AB, basically about whether certain provisions of Income Tax Act are complied by the assessee or not, or applicable to assessee or not. In case if books of accounts are not required to be audited under other law like GST, LLP Act, etc., then form 3CB plus form 3CD, meaning whereby form 3CD is always required. Those who are not aware of it, I am sure all of you in your practical life during articleship did have an experience of tax audit, but in case you are inexperienced, then this is the chapter applicable to you. Okay, apart from form 3CA, CB, CD, CA certificates and reports are required for various other purposes under the Income Tax Act. Like in Income Tax Act, if you recollect charitable trust chapter, where every charitable trust, especially in Maharashtra, has to furnish audit report of a chartered accountant either in form 10B or 10BB. Those who have foreign remittances also, for them 10B, and those who don't have foreign remittances, then form number 10BB plus 10CCB, form 10CCB for claiming certain chapter 6A deductions which are under heading C, 80IA, 80IAB, 80IAC, 80IB, IC, ID, IE, 80JJAA, etc. Form number 10DA for 80JJAA, that is in case if somebody has appointed somebody who is covered by tax audit is applicable and has appointed new employees during the year called additional employees, then emoluments paid to additional employee into 30% is the extra deduction allowed under section 80JJAA. For that, everything has to be certified by chartered accountant in form number 10DA, subject to various conditions of 80JJAA, whether those conditions are fulfilled or not. Form 29B and 29C for minimum alternate tax and AMT, alternate minimum tax. Form 3CEA for slump sale under section 50B, capital gain chapter. Form 3CEB, transfer pricing audit report, and form 15CB for remittances outside India exceeding 5 lakh rupees. It is CA will certify whether it is for genuine reasons or not, provided amount exceeds 5 lakh rupees. Now, what is tax audit? For which form 3 CA, CB, CD required? Tax audit we already discussed in PGBP chapter has got 4-5 clauses. Clause 1, which is applicable for business class person whose current year's turnover from business, sales, gross receipt or turnover from the given business exceeds rupees 1 crore, then he is required to get his books of accounts audited. Instead of 1 crore, the limit will be 10 crore if cash receipts do not exceed 5% of the total receipts for the whole year and cash payments do not exceed 5% of the total payments in the whole year. Cash receipts do not exceed 5% of total receipts. Out of every 100 rupee received for any purpose, maybe by way of sales, gross receipt, turnover, or maybe for sale of property or anything, maturity of FD, sale of capital asset, combined together, total amount received into 5%, the cash received should not exceed 5% of total receipts and cash payment for any purpose, whether you put FD in a bank or you purchase capital asset or you incur business expenditure, whatever is your total outgoing, of course for business profession, not for personal purpose, for business purpose, then out of total outgoing, not more than 5% should be in cash. And clarification, in case if the transaction is by way of check or a draft, then if it is account pay check, account pay draft, then it will not be considered as a cash transaction. If it is other than account pay check, other than account pay draft, meaning thereby if it is a bearer check or only a cross check, then that will be considered at par with a cash payment. That clarification is given, which government forgot to give at the initial stage. Clause 2 is applicable for professional people if the professional gross receipt from the given profession does not exceed rupees 50 lakhs, then audit not required. Exceeds 50 lakh, then audit will be required. For business, two limits, 1 crore for turnover exceeding 1 crore, or instead of 1 crore, it will be 10 crore if cash transactions do not exceed particular limit. No such exception is given for professional gross receipt. Professional gross receipt exceed 50 lakh, then tax audit will be attracted. Clause 3, 4, 5 are applicable to those who have opted for presumptive taxation scheme. Those who have opted for 44 AE, that is transporter, income will be 7,500 per month for light vehicle, per month per vehicle owned, and for heavy vehicle it will be 1,000 rupee per month per ton for the number of months for which such goods carriage was owned. 44 BB and 44 BBB, which are applicable to non-residents or foreign company from certain specified business. For these three specified businesses, in case which are presumptive taxation scheme, if assessee does not want to go for presumptive taxation scheme, wants to declare actual income, and the actual income is lower than the presumed income, then he has to get his books of accounts audited. Whether total income exceeds basic exemption or not, assessee will have to get books of accounts audited. Only one condition, if assessee wants to show actual income and the actual income is lower than presumed income. However, for clause 4, those who are covered by 44 ADA, that is 11 notified profession of law, medicine, accountancy, interior decoration, information technology, company secretary, tax representative, etc. and he is carrying on notified profession under rule 6F read with section 44 AA subsection 1, that means 11 notified profession, then income is supposed to be declared to be minimum 50% of the professional gross receipt. In case if assessee wants to declare actual income and the actual income is less than 50%, that is less than presumed income, that is less than 50% of gross receipt from profession, and his total income exceeds basic exemption, then audit will be required. For clause number 3 and clause number 4, what is the difference? Both of them talk about some presumptive taxation scheme, but in clause number 3, second condition is not there, only one condition, assessee wants to declare actual income and the actual income is less than presumed income. Clause number 4, two condition, assessee wants to declare actual income is less than presumed income, and his total income exceeds basic exemption. Which income should exceed basic exemption? Total income, including such income from business or profession. And last, which is applicable for 44 AD subsection 4. Business class people, if the turnover does not exceed 2 crore or 3 crore if certain conditions are fulfilled, turnover does not exceed 2 crore, then he has an option to declare income at the rate of 6% of the business turnover or 8% of the business turnover for that much turnover which is in cash. Through banking channel, then 6% of the turnover, and that much turnover which is not by way of banking channel, which is by way of cash, cross check or a bearer check, then 8% of the turnover. However, as per 44 AD subsection 4, there is a concept of lock-in period of 5 years. Once the person declares income as per 44 AD, presumed income, the next 5 years he has to declare income as per 44 AD subsection 4 only, subsection 1. In case he does not declare income as per 44 AD in the next 5 years, then in such situation, during those 5 years, once he does not declare as per 44 AD, then the year in which he did not declare as per 44 AD, next 5 years he will not be allowed to declare as per 44 AD, he will have to declare actual income only in the IT return. And during that 5-year period, when he is not allowed to opt for 44 AD, when he is blacklisted, when he is chucked out, there is a lockout applicable. In our language we call it as lock-in. Once you opt for 44 AD, you are locked in for 5 years. But during those 5 years, if you go out of 44 AD, the next 5 years there will be lockout. You cannot come back for next 5 years. wait for next 5 years, thereafter you can. So during those lockout period of 5 years, if total income exceeds basic exemption, then we can say that he is covered by 44AD subsection 4. When we say person referred to in 44AD subsection 4 means a person who is passing through that 5 years or lockout period. During that lockout period, if his total income exceeds basic exemption, then he has to get his books of accounts compulsorily audited, irrespective of his turnover. Provided income exceeds basic exemption, turnover may or may not exceed 1 crore or 10 crore. Proviso says that those who opt and declare income as per 44AD or ADA, presumptive taxation scheme, in accordance with that section, then even if turnover exceeds 1 crore or gross receipt from profession exceeds 50 lakhs, he will not be required to get the books of accounts audited. Because for 44AD, in order to opt for 44AD, there is a threshold limit. Turnover should not exceed 2 crore rupees. And if cash receipts do not exceed 5% of turnover, then turnover should not exceed 3 crore. Instead of 2 crore, it will be 3 crore. In either case, it is more than 1 crore. Then also tax audit will not be attracted because he is opting for 44AD. Same thing for 44ADA. The limit to opt for it, the threshold limit is 50 lakh. Professional receipt should not exceed 50 lakh. Instead of 50 lakh, limit will be 75 lakh. In case out of professional receipts, not more than 5% is received by cash, then instead of 50 lakh, he can opt for 44ADA even with gross sales or gross receipt up to 75 lakh. In case he opts for these two sections, any of these two, then tax audit not applicable for that business or for that profession. I repeat, tax audit not applicable for that business or for that profession. In case he is carrying on other businesses or profession, then for that tax audit may be applicable if he does not opt for 44AD for other businesses or does not opt for 44ADA for other profession. However, non-resident or foreign company declaring their income as per 44B, that is business of shipping, income is 7.5% of gross receipts, or 44BBA, airline business. In case of airline business, income will be 5% of the gross receipts attributable to Indian operations. Then they are not required to get their books of accounts audited even if turnover exceeds 1 crore, 10 crore or 50 lakh, whatever. Now, in order to help people or help chartered accountants to get the books of accounts of the assessee audited, our institute issues guidance note. Guidance notes are abbreviated as GN of ICAI. Now, institute has clarified 2 points. First point, if assessee is carrying on more than one business, then for the purpose of threshold limit of 1 crore or 10 crore, we have to aggregate the turnover of all the businesses, or we have to keep them, or we have to compare with the threshold limit individually. Suppose assessee has business A with turnover of 70 lakhs and business B with a turnover of 80 lakh. Independently, both are less than 1 crore, entirely in cash, but combined together, they will be more than 1 crore. Assuming 5% cash receipt concept does not apply, turnover limit is not 10 crore but 1 crore applicable, then for audit purpose we have to aggregate the turnover of both the businesses, shall be merged together for comparing with the threshold limit. Same thing for profession. If assessee is carrying on more than one profession, then gross receipts from both the professions or all the professions should be aggregated. I am not saying that this is not given in the act also. It is given by our institute, which is accepted by income tax department also. Okay. In case assessee opts for 44AD, ADA, AE, B, BB, BBA for particular business or particular profession, and he has other businesses also, then turnover or gross receipt from those businesses or profession for which assessee has opted for 44AD, ADA, etc., that much turnover shall not be taken into account, or that much gross receipt shall not be taken into account while calculating turnover or gross receipt for other business or profession. Supposingly, assessee is carrying on business A, turnover 70 lakhs, assessee is carrying on business B, turnover 80 lakhs. Technically, we have to merge both as per point number 1. But for first business, assessee opts for 44AD, then remove that turnover for the purpose of tax audit, and for tax audit purpose, consider the turnover of other business only. Accordingly, turnover is below 1 crore, tax audit not required for other business. Institute once asked the question, I'll give you that question I have covered here, I'll show you. Time limit to furnish tax audit report, we know pretty well. Tax audit report, whosoever is required to get books of accounts audited under Income Tax Act or under any other act, then time limit is 31st October. Due date to file the IT return is 31st October of the assessment year. And the time limit to furnish tax audit report online is 1 month before the expiry of that due date. Instead of 31st October, the due date of filing IT return, less 1 month, 30th September will be the due date to file the tax audit report, 30th September of the assessment year. Otherwise, there will be penalty under 271B. Penalty will be lower of the following two, either 0.5% of sales, gross receipt or turnover, but only that much sales, gross receipt or turnover into 0.5% for which tax audit was attracted. So, institute has given one question which we will discuss, that assessee was having two businesses, turnover 1.5 crore and second business turnover 2 crore. 1.5 crore and 2 crore, total 3.5 crore. But for second business, assessee opted for presumptive taxation scheme. So for that, tax audit was not required because he opted for 44AD. And here we just discussed, if assessee opts for 44AD for one of the business, then sales, gross receipt, turnover of such business should not be taken into account while comparing with the threshold limit for other business. Here for other business, where the turnover is 1.5 crore, tax audit was required because exceeded 1 crore. Assessee did not get books of accounts audited, then penalty will be 0.5% of this 1.5 crore and not 0.5% of 3.5 crore, or rupees either 0.5% of sales, gross receipt, turnover, or rupees 1.5 lakh, whichever is lower. Not only that, if CA furnishes a false report or wrong certification and CA is caught, then penalty of 10,000 on the chartered accountant under section 271J, or giving incorrect information in any report or certificate which is required under the Income Tax Act or under any rules of the Income Tax Act. Remember, 10,000 rupee penalty was introduced by Arun Jaitley ji. 10,000 penalty, you will have to remember, this will be revising in penalty chapter as well. Now certain points to be noted. What are the points to be noted? So everything depends upon the amount of sales, gross receipt or turnover, and these three terminologies are not defined anywhere in the Act. Therefore, our institute had to issue a guidance note to clarify certain points, what all things to be included in sales, gross receipt, turnover, what all things to be excluded. This is not given in the Act, this is given only in this chapter because it is a part of institute's guidance note which I have covered here briefly. So method of accounting followed by assessee will play the most important role, cash or mercantile, for his business profession. Third point, which has A, B, C, D, E, F, 6 points, talk about different items which are to be taken into account or not to be taken into account, means to be reduced from the turnover or added to the turnover. Discount allowed. Now discount can be of two types. Discount could be included in the sales invoice, that means sales invoice is for 100 rupee minus 10 rupee discount. If it is cash discount, covered in the sales invoice, so sales invoice says 100 minus 10 rupee discount 90 rupee, then it is to be reduced. It will reduce the turnover if it is included in the sales invoice. But sales invoice does not talk about any cash discount. According to sales invoice, the billing amount is 100 rupee, but you as a businessman gave an upfront discount to a person making cash payment. If there is cash discount other than allowed in the sales invoice, should not be reduced from the sales turnover. It can be debited as a separate expenditure. It can be considered as a sales promotion expenditure, should not be considered as a discount. In the first example, your turnover will be 90 rupee after discount. In a second example, your turnover will be 100 rupee. Special rebate allowed to the customer. If it is in the nature of trade discount, then reduce it. If it is in the nature of sales commission, then don't reduce it. Sales commission you debit, you expense it out, you debit to P&L separately. Turnover discount, that is bulk quantity discount. Somebody purchases in a bulk quantity, then you are offering some discount. Then it is nature of trade discount, therefore it is to be reduced. Sale proceeds of any other asset, investment, shares, debentures, property, stock in trade, fixed deposit, which are held in the nature of investment and not as stock in trade, then that shall not be taken into account for the purpose of calculating sales, turnover or gross receipt for the purpose of tax audit. Obviously that we know pretty well. Goods returned, many people are not aware of this. What to do with the goods return? Answer, goods returned to be reduced, shall be reduced from the turnover. Of course that will not form part of your turnover provided returned back by the year ending. Some examples institute has covered. Understand this example. Number 1, AB Private Limited has a total turnover of 10.15 crore, which is more than 10 crore for the financial year 24-25. Its receipts and payment during the previous year 24-25 are made otherwise than by way of cash, entirely by banking channel. Answer, Once the turnover is more than 10 crore, no, then you don't have to bother about whether turnover is through banking channel or it is in cash. Whether cash receipts and cash payments are exceeding 5% of the gross receipts for the whole year and gross payments for the whole year or not, that is not to be seen because turnover is more than 10 crore. That is to be seen only when turnover is between 1 crore and 10 crore. AB Private Limited has to mandatorily get his books of accounts audited because his turnover has exceeded 10 crore. Second example, DB Limited has a total turnover of 9 crore for the financial year 24-25. Out of this, 7 crore is received during the previous year. Now, when you talk about 5% of cash receipts should not exceed 5% of total receipts, then in that case, you will have to consider amount received, whether it is out of current year's turnover or next year's turnover or last year's turnover. So, it is quite possible that your turnover for the current year is 9 crore, but the total receipts are 10 crore. Next year, some amount is received in the current year. So, this 5% what you are going to apply, whether cash receipts are exceeding 5% or not, for 5% you take into account total amount received, whether it is forming part of your current year turnover or not. So, current year turnover is 9 crore, but total amount received is 10 crore. Apply 5% on 10 crore. These amounts are received through account payee check or account payee bank draft and other prescribed electronic modes. I repeat, turnover of the current year is 9 crore. Only 7 crore is received during the year. Then 5% you will apply on 7 crore, but for tax audit purpose you will consider the amount of 9 crore. Okay, further it says apart from this, it also received advance of 4 crore for the future supply of goods. It is already received. If received, then total receipts are 11 crore. 7 crore out of current year's turnover, 4 crore out of next year's turnover received in advance, 11 crores are received. Out of such advance, it received 46 lakhs in cash. 46 lakhs rupees are in cash. Assume that all payments are made otherwise by way of cash, that means to banking channel. Is DB Private Limited mandatorily required to get accounts audited? Answer here, what we'll have to do? We'll have to apply this limit. Total amount received is 7 crore plus 4 crore. Total 11 crore is received into 5%. Not more than 55 lakhs should have been received in cash. Amount received in cash is 46 lakhs. Therefore, tax audit. Therefore, I would not say therefore tax audit not required. If cash receipts do not exceed 5% of total receipts, then limit for tax audit will become 10 crore instead of 1 crore. So, here the turnover is 9 crore. It is given in the first line. Then audit will not be required. Just because cash receipts do not exceed 5% of total receipts, don't jump to any conclusion that tax audit is not required. If this happens, cash receipts are within limited 5%, below 5% or up to 5% of total receipts, then tax audit limit will become 10 crore instead of 1 crore. But audit may be attracted. For the purpose of computing threshold limit of cash receipts, total receipts including amount received for next year to be considered. 46 lakh does not exceed 55 lakh, that is 5% of 11 crore. Therefore, audit is not required. Third question, all these tricky questions are asked by institute here, and similar questions can come up in the exam in the form of MCQ. DB Limited's third question, DB Limited's turnover for financial year 24-25 is 15 crore from textile business and 3 crore from petrol pump business, two businesses. We know pretty well as per institute's guidance note, we have to merge both 15 crore plus 3 crore. All transactions are through banking channels. So, if all transactions are through banking channel, assessee cannot assume that tax audit required for textile business with 15 crore turnover and not required for petrol pump business because below 10 crore. No, 10 crore threshold limit is not for each business or turnover from each business. It is for all businesses combined together. DB Limited prepared its financial statement for textile business and got its accounts audited and furnished the same to the income tax department within prescribed time limit. Company was of the view that since the turnover from petrol pump business is only 3 crore and all transactions are through banking channel, the accounts of petrol pump were not required to be audited. Answer no, absolutely false. Accounts will be required to be audited because total turnover is 18 crore which exceeds threshold limit of 10 crore. From all the businesses to be aggregated. Fourth example, in the same thing, if how much will be the penalty? So, for petrol pump business audit is not done with 3 crore turnover, and for textile business audit is done, this is not done, here there is violation. Penalty which is 0.5% of turnover will be with regards to petrol pump business turnover. In example 4 as above, example 3, the assessing officer wants to invoke penalty on 18 crore, 15 plus 3 considering 0.5% of total turnover? Answer: since assessee has already furnished tax audit report for 15 crore business for textile business, penalty will be restricted to 3 crore into 0.5%. Now the next is ICAI guidance note on tax audit under 44AB. Now Institute to help chartered accountants has issued this guidance note, where Institute has first of all clarified that this tax audit is for income tax department to help income tax department in understanding accounts of the assessee. Tax audit is not for assessee, not for the client. Though client pays us the fees, tax audit report is to be submitted to income tax department for their understanding. So chartered accountant must always take care that the income tax department understands the audit. For this purpose, working papers should be maintained, and Institute has provided some guidance. Institute says that working paper will play an important role. Even in my office also, when staff gets changed, it becomes difficult for the next staff, for the successor, to understand what was done by the predecessor. Therefore, everything should be documented. Working paper should be maintained properly. That is very important. Plus, Institute clarifies that following should be taken care of: work done while conducting audit and by whom, who did the work and what was the work done. Everything should ideally be documented. Even I request or I suggest my staff members also, in my articles also, to maintain all the records of communication with the client also. Sometimes there is some query and we raise the query to client, client replies, and based on client's reply we take the decision. After 1 or 2 years down the line, when client questions you why this decision was taken, client might have forgotten, income tax department will not understand. It is a responsibility of chartered accountant to clarify why the decision was like this. Therefore, documentation is very important. Otherwise, lot of time gets wasted. Explanations and information given to him during the course of audit and by whom. Noting, obviously you have studied all these things in audit subject, that what kind of information, who gave the information and what was it, everything should be documented. Store it in an Excel file, decisions on various points taken and who took the decision and what decision was taken and why the decision was taken like that. So anything which is puzzling or raising doubts, you mention why is it raising doubt, when was it asked to whom, and what reply was given by whom, and then what decision was taken and for why. Briefly write it. Then judicial pronouncements. Now this plays an important role. Court decisions, High Court, Supreme Court orders, decisions of High Court, Supreme Court, that is called judicial pronouncement, which are relied upon by him while making audit report. That has to be mentioned that my decision is this based on so and so case law. Certificates issued by client or management letter. This is also very important. Whenever you are not able to verify, you should obtain management letter that this particular thing is properly done by assessee client. That is management representation letter, MRL we call it as. And you mention it in an audit report, tax audit report, that so and so was relied upon on client. Okay, apart from reporting requirement under 3CD, auditor can qualify his report in form 3CA para 3 or in form 3CB para 5. Qualification is not a positive thing. Qualification means noting negative points. Qualification can be given that I have not been able to verify this, client has not supported, client has not supplied books of accounts documents, or I have verified but I am not able to take a decision. For what reason I am not able to take decision? That is called qualification mentioned. Now if CA does not do all these things, CA does not check or checks but does not check properly, then that will amount to professional misconduct, and accordingly action can be taken against him. Institute will also take action. Income tax department can also impose 10,000 rupees of penalty. He will be deemed to be, CA will be deemed to be a professional misconduct as per Schedule 2 of CA Act, Chartered Accountants Act 1949. If number 1, either he does not exercise due diligence, means he did not check when the things were available which he should have checked, or he is grossly negligent in conducting of his professional duty. He did checking but did not check properly. There were cash transactions exceeding 10,000 in one day to one party, but CA did not check. Did not check where he could have checked. Did not check, then that will be classified as he has failed to exercise due diligence, or he has been negligent in performing his professional duty, or if he fails to obtain sufficient information. Then also as per clause 8, he will be of this second schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, he will be held to be guilty of professional misconduct. These two you will have to memorize for income tax purpose, for paper purpose. Institute can ask. Penalty of 10,000 rupees under 271J for each report or each certificate which is containing false information or misguiding information. Then I have clarified Form 3CA, 3CB, 3CD. Form 3CD comprises of 48 clauses which are numbered serially from 1 to 44. So on paper there are 44 clauses, but actually there are 48 clauses. Some of the clauses are numbered as A, B, C, etc. Okay. Then institute says so and so point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, 8 points are there which should be noted. So if point number A, particular item, auditor is advised to consider the following. Particular item is covered at more than one place in a or more than one of the clauses, then at one place you mention it in detail properly, at other place make a suitable cross reference that this point is covered in detail in so and so point. One point you cover in detail, another point having similar concept you give a cross reference as per clause number so and so. If there is any difference of opinion between the auditor and assessee client, then what to do? Then advisable is to mention both the views. Consider stating both the views or both the points, and also clarify your justification that why are you having so and so opinion. Okay, there are appropriate places you can mention the relevant information related to the matter so that tax authority AO can take a proper decision. If any particular clause is not applicable, then mention it is not applicable. Don't leave it blank. D point. Okay, now sometimes this tax audit report which is published by CBDT, they are not well updated sometimes, or they are updated but after that there is further amendment or there is a circular which is not covered in that tax audit report. Then in that case CA will have to take care of that he has to keep in view the law applicable for the relevant year and accordingly he has to mention. Okay, if assessee has furnished particulars in part or not furnished for the relevant form is incomplete, or assessee does not give information against all or any of the clauses, then mention it that we have not been able to check this because assessee has not cooperated. Audit report should qualify his report that I asked or we demanded but assessee client has not provided so and so, and inform assessee also that we are qualifying the report. You furnish by so and so date, otherwise we will not wait for you. You cannot delay. So institute says rather than not issuing the report, rather than not giving the report, charge proper fees and give a qualified report that we have not been able to check. So don't have a feeling that assessee client has not given anything, how do we check, without checking how do we charge fees. Nothing doing. You have spent your time, you charge full fees, mention it or qualify the report that you have not been able to check. Okay. 3CD should be based on books of accounts, records, document, information, explanations provided to the auditor by the client, client staff, client's customers, whatever. Auditor relies on judicial pronouncement, then he should mention that fact in his observation that we have relied for this point, we have relied on so and so Bombay High Court decision or so and so Supreme Court decision, etc. at the appropriate place. And reporting is required at more than one place, then information may be furnished at one place or one of the clauses, a reference may be given or you can say cross reference may be given. Whether it can be revised or not, ideally Form 3 CA, CB, CD cannot be revised, not allowed. But here it says it can be revised but can be revised only for one reason. What is that reason? 31st October is the due date of filing IT return and report is to be furnished, tax audit reports by, that is TAR, to be furnished by 30th September. As per 43B, assessee is allowed 9 expenditures deduction only when payment is made on or before this date. Agreed. But right now you as an auditor are giving report on this date and you have mentioned that so and so expenditure 13 lakh rupees not paid, still not paid, therefore disallowable. According to you, disallowable. So right now in the audit report you are saying disallowable, but assessee still has one more month to make payment and claim the deduction in the current year. So if assessee makes payment between 1st October of the assessment year to 31st October of the assessment year, then CA can revise his report, maybe revise n number of times, but in any case should be revised before the end of previous year. This is an important point, keep it in your mind. Many people are not aware of it. Even as of today also, many people call me up and ask me, sir, the way we can revise the IT return, can we revise the tax audit report? Answer, no, tax audit report cannot be revised. Now it is allowed to be revised only for one purpose, for deduction under 43B if payment is made by client after the tax audit report is submitted but before, on or before the due date of filing IT return. It can be revised if there is a payment made by such person after furnishing tax audit report but before the due date of filing IT return. which necessitates recalculation of disallowance under section 40 or 43B. Barring that, tax audit report cannot be revised. Keep it in your mind. That's it. With that, the chapter tax audit and ethical compliances revision is over. Thank you very much. Wish you all a very good luck. See you in the next video with some other chapter.